the Turkish Greeks and the
Turkish Cypriots
and
Greeks
the Greeks were fighting each other, and we were in the middle of it all in Nicosia, and my boss was frequently busy elsewhere, so I had quite a lot of visiting to do. A rather beaten up Land Rover with a Union Jack, trying to get in between Greeks and Turks who were shooting at each other. And it's quite funny really, because they respected a beaten up Jeep with a Union Jack on it. And things usually stopped. And I would drive up to one side and say, "He's stopped firing. Stop firing, will you?" And he said, "Oh, has he? Yeah, all right." And you go back to the other side and say, "He's stopped firing over there."
Wow.
You know, and that went on. And we an emergency thing. We were flown out there on New Year's Eve on '64, and we were landed in the south of the island, Decalia, and we went up to Nicosia, and we were there for about fortnight or 3 weeks. And we had no proper orders. We had a sort of brigade headquarters in charge of us, and we were the regiment in Nicosia. And it was all very odd, but after a time we established some sort of order, and stopped, a lot of the shooting stopped and so on. And into the middle of all this, along comes General Michael Carver, who was a CIGS at the time, and he was absolutely marvellous. And he said, "I want to walk round." There was a thing called the Green Line, which was the border between the Greeks and Turks. And he said, "I want to walk down the Green Line. I want to see it. I want to see where it is, and I want to know what your problems are." So off I go. Yes, second in command of the regiment, not the colonel. The colonel was down south somewhere. And when we got back to the Letter Palace Hotel, I took him up to my room and said, "You wanted to know what we needed to help, what help we needed." And he said, "Yes, I do. What do you want done?" So I said, "Well, we've got no proper orders for sentries to fire on people. We have no real proper orders at all." He said, "Get me some paper, get me a pen." And he wrote out the orders, just like that. "That's your orders." And so I said, "Thank you very much." I mean, he was absolutely splendid. And that started us getting really nicely checked up, okay. So then we've been there a while, and it became a UN thing. And overnight we had to put on a UN blue beret, and we had to have a UN flag on everything and so on. And it was quite amusing really, because we had a UN general who was an Indian, who was quite a nice man, but I mean, it was all very weird. And the funny thing about it was, it all happened overnight, that we suddenly became a UN, and we had to have our berets and our flags and notices and things all ready. So we did this, and one of my sergeants had had a post for 3 weeks or more on top of a roof on the Green Line in a rather rough area of Nicosia. And a fellow called Sergeant Davis, and he had a party of about 6 men. And this happened to him overnight, and he came down from his roof, and the locals had heard that the United Nations were coming, and that one of the things was a French-Canadian battalion had arrived, you see. And as said, as Sergeant Davis came down with his men from the top of his roof, some Cypriot saw him in the road and he said, "Bonjour, monsieur." He said, "You missed it again, it's the same old lot." But it was weird when I have to say, we immediately lost the respect of the locals. They took far too many liberties. And having got it all there, suddenly,
Mm.
and
But what could you do to stop them fighting other than sort of driving in between them?
well, not much. I mean, they were terribly inefficient. The Greeks were not Greeks. The Turks were sent out a large amount of their army over at one stage. That quietened things down in the north of the island.